these people?
Just America being the bad guy in multiple places at once.
Right.
But
speaking of America being bad in many places, including our own backyard.
Yeah.
Great segue, Reef. So I actually forgot that Professor Wolff, well, I don't think it's him tweeting this out. I think he has like
a handler
an intern or somebody that does this for him. But I think, you know, I just kind of came upon this over the weekend, which I'm like, ooh, Professor Wolff. And like, so he tweeted out, inside a declining US capitalism below leaders babbling about economic problems, policies, and a strong consumer, a savage working class rages. Hashtag we can do better than capitalism.
Yep.
So, so he tweeted out this, hold on.
There you go.
There we go. So he tweeted out this Yahoo News article about evictions, and I joked about this, but, you know, joking aside, you know, certain squad members talked about this last year on the Capitol. The fake bleep out for this.
Notice me, Senpai. Notice me.
What? Yes,
except
Collin...
I wouldn't call them senpai.
No, it's like everyone's, you notice me. Like I was there. I said the 10%, you know, that was me.
Yeah, we should clip that though too.
Yeah. What about the 10%?
Right. But I think in this case, what about the 99?
Right.
You know, what about us? You know, because evictions are still happening. I'm sure many of you know this.
Yeah.
You know, because you guys are very smart. And you guys are
housing
aware of what's happening.
Should be a human right, yes.
Right. You know, but evictions spiking as assistance protections disappear.
Yay.
Okay, so Jada Riley thought she had beaten homelessness. The 26-year-old New Orleans resident was finally making a steady income cleaning houses during the pandemic to afford a $700 a month one-bedroom apartment. Where is that in DC?
Oh my God, yeah.
It probably wasn't that nice though, knowing the gentrification.
I mean, in New Orleans, we're to $700 a month, one bedroom. If it tells me where it was, but yeah, go ahead.
I don't think it was probably that nice of an apartment.
No, it's probably
given the gentrification.
Yeah, West Side.
I digress.
You know, West Bank, right there by the police department.
Probably.
You know, a little duplex.
But she
shotgun
lost nearly
houses.
all of her clients after Hurricane Ida hit last year. Then she was fired from a grocery store job in February after taking time off to help a relative. 2 months behind her rent, she made the difficult decision last month to leave her apartment rather than risk an eviction judgment on her record. Now she's living in her car with her 6-year-old son, sometimes spending nights at the apartments of her friends or her son's father. I slept outside for a whole year before. It's very depressing. I'm not gonna lie, said Riley, who often doesn't have enough money to buy gas or afford food every day. I don't want to have my son experience any struggles that I went through. Eviction filings nationwide have steadily risen in recent months and are approaching or exceeding pre-pandemic levels in many cities and states. That's in stark contrast to the pandemic, when state and federal moratoriums on evictions, combined with $46.5 billion in federal emergency rental assistance, kept millions of families housed. I really think this is the tip of the iceberg, Shannon McKenzie, executive director of Colorado Poverty Law Project, said of June filings in Denver, which were about 24% higher than the same time 3 years ago. Our numbers of evictions are increasing every month at an astonishing rate, and I just don't see that abating anytime soon. According to the Eviction Lab, several cities are running far above historic averages, with Minneapolis, St. Paul 91% higher in June, Las Vegas up 56%, Hartford, Connecticut up 32%, and Jackson, Florida, down the road from you, up 17%. In Maricopa County, home to Phoenix, Arizona, eviction filings in July were the highest in 13 years, officials said. Some legal advocates said that the sharp increase in housing prices due to inflation is partially to blame. Rental prices nationwide are up nearly 15% from a year ago and almost 25% from 2019, according to the real estate company Zillow. Rental vacancy rates, meanwhile, have declined to a 35-year low of 5.8%, according to the Census Bureau.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, because, yes.
Explain that.
Because, like, they're essentially not looking at all the data. Like, they're looking at data that the census provided. And so, like, if you don't put all your census information properly, or if you don't file things correctly, like that's you know what I mean? It's like it only can see the amount of people that are like currently unemployed, like currently on unemployment. Like there's that, you know what I mean? Like they just, it's weird statistics that way, but yeah. Like they're just not looking at the right stuff pretty much.
Yeah, I just feel like that seems kind of low to me. Like
Very
low,
much.
not in a good way.
Yeah.
Like if anything, that I feel that number should be higher.
Yeah.
But I think we can do some research on that to see. But anyway, a report last month from the National Low Income Housing Coalition found that a tenant working full-time needs to make nearly $26 per hour on average nationally to afford a modest two-bedroom rental and $21.25 an hour for a one-bedroom.
Yeah.
Federal minimum wage is $7.25 an hour.
Right.
Landlords are raising the rent and making it very unaffordable for tenants to stay, said Margaret Marie Chang Yuan, the Eviction Initiative Project Director for the National Housing Law Project. Inflation has really shrunk the supply of housing that is available for people with the lowest incomes, she added. Without more protections in place, which not all states have, a lot of families will be rendered homeless. Actually, along with that, even if and I saw this in a local news report, here, I think maybe yesterday, tenants, landlords are not taking, Section 8 vouchers necessarily now.
Yeah.
So, which is also exacerbating the problem.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
which is crazy.
Patrick McLeod, Chief Executive Director of the Virginia Apartment Management Association, said that the trend is a return to normal, okay? No one likes evictions, but they're in some ways a reset to the economy. Okay, McLeod said, adding that evictions have been artificially depressed.
Yeah.
Right. Housing is based on supply and demand, and when no one moves and you have no vacancies, you have a tight market and prices go up. Right. Graham Bowman, a staff attorney with Legal Aid Social Society of Columbus, Ohio, said eviction there are rising, 15% above historic averages in June alone, at a time when there are fewer places for those forced out to go. Cheryl Lee Smith was evicted in May from a two-bedroom apartment in Columbus after she used her rent to repair a sewage leak in the basement. Smith, who is legally blind and has a federal housing voucher, fears she won't be able to find anything by September when her voucher expires because of rising housing prices and the eviction on her record.
Yeah.
It's very scary, said Smith, 53, whose temporary stay at a hotel funded through a state program ends this weekend.
Right.
In Boise, Idaho, Jeremy McKinney, 45, moved into his car last week after a judge sided with a property management company that nearly tripled the rent of his two-bedroom house. The Lyft and DoorDash driver will have to rent a hotel room whenever he has custody of his children, 9 and 12. It's definitely mind-blowing, said McKinney, after that everything on the market is beyond his reach, even after a nonprofit offered to cover the security deposit. I've never been homeless before. I've always had a roof over my head. The other challenge is the federal emergency rental assistance that helped keep millions housed during the pandemic has dried up in some jurisdictions or have been increasingly rejected by some landlords. What really gets me is that there's rental assistance and so many landlords just don't want it. They'd rather throw away someone on the street than take the money. Eric Hortler, management attorney of the Lone Star State Legal Aid's Eviction Right to Counsel project, which covers Houston and Harris County in Texas. If you take the money, you can't evict them. They want them out.
Yeah.
Any thoughts? I felt like you had something you wanted to say.
Well, I mean, I just wanted to make sure Kelly M got, that there are millions of empty houses in this country, and not only are evictions rising, landlords who had to ease up on rent during the pandemic have arbitrarily started raising rents because they can.
Yeah, and yeah, to unaffordable levels for a lot of people, especially like not every state is able to offer 15 does offer, or certain companies don't offer like a 15
well, the fact that like
wage, which even with that is not enough.
No,
you can argue now, especially with inflation right now.
Yeah,
and like this, Reef, like I'm going to be moving into a new apartment next month. I actually was very lucky that I found one that's somewhat like below market rate here in DC. Like, which is amazing, but at the same time kind of sad, like considering how much you have to pay even for like a studio apartment, in DC, like, but the cost, is unlike, even for me, I don't want to spend all of my money on rent. So like trying to find one that doesn't basically take away all your money, like like from your paycheck every month, like it was kind of like the challenge for me, because I can easily spend over $2,000 alone
on something fairly basic, like
right. Depending where I'm at. But anyway, where am I?
You are next slide. Yeah.
Thank you. The U.S. Treasury said last week that more than $40 billion of the $46.5 billion in emergency rental assistance has to be spent or allocated. According to the National Low Income Housing Coalition, California, Connecticut, Massachusetts, Minnesota, North Carolina, and Virginia have gone through at least 90% of their first disbursement. 12 states and DC have used 50% of the second allocation, known as ERA2, by the end of May. 3, Idaho, Ohio, and Iowa haven't spent any ERA2 money, and 2, Nebraska and Arkansas didn't accept the funds. The public health emergency may still be there, but the funds to deal with it are rapidly disappearing, said Martin Wegbrit, director of litigation for the Central Virginia Legal Aid Society. Treasury is encouraging states and cities to tap other federal stimulus funds to cover the gaps. So far, over 600 state and local governments have budgeted $12.9 billion in stimulus funds to meet housing needs, including affordable housing development. Gene Sperling, who oversees President Joe Biden's $1.9 trillion coronavirus rescue package, highlighted the success of its rental assistance program, which has reached 7 million mostly low-income households. But more needs to be done to ensure the country doesn't return to pre-pandemic times when 3.6 million tenants were evicted annually, and evictions were too often a first resort, not a last resort, he told a forum on eviction reforms at the White House last week. Some lawmakers said the answer is a permanent rental assistance program. A bill introduced last month would provide $3 billion annually for rental assistance and fund services to keep families housed. A study commissioned by the National Department Association and the National Multifamily Housing Council said the answer is building 4.3 million apartments by 2035. Now, the question is this, well, I don't even want to say affordable housing anymore because they're not.
Yeah. That's like justice reform instead of like, abolishing.
But like housing for all. Yeah. Really. That's really what we should be talking about.
Yeah. Very much so.
Housing guarantee. That's really what we should be speaking of.
Housing as a human right. Almost like we've been arguing this for the last like 5-6 decades. Right. So some more.
Yep. I think I have 2 more slides after this. So other advocates call for permanent legal protections like right to counsel for tenants or eviction diversion programs to resolve evictions before they reach the courts. In Richmond, Virginia, eviction filings in June were 54% below historic averages, attributed to rental assistance and more legal representation for tenants in court, Redbridge said. Similar programs were credited with New Mexico's eviction filings being 29% below historic averages in June. Philadelphia, which passed a law making eviction diversion mandatory through this year, saw filings down 33%. The City Council of Philadelphia also approved spending $30 million over 2 years for rental assistance. We are trying to change the way we look at this issue in Philadelphia, where the only thing you can do is go to landlord-tenant court or start an eviction, said Anderson, supervising attorney with Philadelphia Legal Assistance, who oversees the paralegals on the Save Your Home Philly hotline. Oh, cool. That's it.
Yep. I also, we talked about last week, tenant unions as well. Which nice little continuation there, from Collin. So people should go back should have the clips up if people want to go to the channels.
Clips are up now. They're live now. So yeah, like we talked about, basically the idea that landlords now are trying to increase their rent, I think in part due to, like
wanting to recoup pandemic loss
from pandemic, in addition to gentrified areas are now trying to kick out certain tenants in order to renovate, in the case that we talked about in it's outside Toronto, like this one complex where they're trying to, they were saying like, once you
renovating,
we'll bring you back in. But in reality, they're trying to renovate
and then increase price hike,
increase the rent for them to leave. And get get new tenants who are able to afford it in.
Yeah,
it's all about geometry.
It is, Shaq. It is about geometry.